Clip Suns. Wow. Russell Westbrook, 3 for 19, and yet was somehow one of the 3 most important players in the game. Reminded me of UCLA Westbrook when he didn't really know what he was doing, but was so impactful and was just touching everything and all over the place. Kawhi versus KD, and a Suns loss that felt like a tiny bit more than a loss. Here's what I noticed, Russillo. Those guys have not played together very long. And the continuity stuff, when you watch a team like Denver, like we're taping this during the fourth quarter of Denver, Minnesota, those Denver guys have all been together for a while. That Suns team, you know, the moment you get punched in the mouth a couple of times and KD is like, had that new guy energy. There's a couple moments where he was just kind of standing 30 feet away from the basket. It's like, you're the 15th best player of all time. Why is DeAndre Ayton getting, you know, ISOs at the foul line like he's Joel Embiid? Look, I'm not in full Suns panic, but I didn't think that was a good loss for them. What'd you think?
Yeah, not going to panic at all. There are plenty of game ones, as I try to remind myself every single year, where you're like, remember when you thought that after game one? And then it was like the series went the other way. But it is alarming because the Clippers without Paul George are not a good basketball team. I guess they're okay. But if you look at their defensive rankings, you know, even since the All-Star break with this group, there's not much there. And yet in this game, I think the thing you hit on is, okay, what are you actually going to do with Durant? Because I think 2 things happened. One, I have no fucking clue what Monty Williams was doing at the end of that third quarter. They kind of lost the game in that third quarter.
You talking about Booker and the subs?
Yeah. They were up 77-68. Torrey Craig hits a 3. You know, they were down 16 at one point. You feel like, okay, they figured this thing out. They're home. They're going to win it. And then the Clippers closed on a 13-4 run. And at 2:58, everybody is out except for Booker. So it's Booker, Jock Landale, Shamet, Okogie, and Ish Wainwright. And then they blitz defensively. Credit to Ty Lue, who's like, okay, so Booker's bringing it up. They blitz him. And then Phoenix is like, oh, shit. Like, we haven't, to your point, like, what are we going to do now? Well, you got to bring a second guy up to at least give you an outlet and then go play 4-on-3, even if your talent is at a disadvantage against those other guys. And it happened a bunch of possessions in a row. And you're like, why would you do this? So I'll be curious if we ever see that again.
No backup point guard for them either, which wasn't open.
No, the campaign part of it is a problem. And then the other part is exactly what you were hitting on. Like, they were playing Plumlee so deep, and they brought Zubac in later, but they're playing him so deep in the drop coverage, and they were setting the screen so high for Chris Paul with Ayton, where all of a sudden Chris Paul actually has a really good look, or it's an Ayton look that's really good because Plumlee played so deep back on one of them. You're like, you can't do that again. Chris Paul missed way too many shots during that stretch, and you have Durant watching it all, and then it happened like 3 times in a row, and even though they got good looks, you could tell it was like, hey, we got to change this. And then they changed something up with Booker. They used Durant again. Chris Paul's just not consistent enough offensively in making shots for you to think that that's your first option. As you mentioned, Durant is watching it all happen. So those would be the 2 things.
Yeah, Durant was at the Sam Hauser role a couple times, like late, like 5 minutes left. We need a basket. And to me, it's like I would just run Durant and Booker. I'd like to see somebody stop some version of one guy setting a pick for the other, and let's just see it. But Paul was 2 for 8. He had 11 rebounds, 10 assists, but Ayton had 16 field goal attempts, which I don't love. They have a lot of like guys on this team.
Where are you with Ayton now? Have we done a lot on this or no?
To me, Ayton is the guy you kind of like when we do rewatchables, we have like the that guy category, and sometimes the guys are overqualified to be a that guy, but I think he's a that guy. I don't want him prominently involved in the last 4 minutes of what really should have been Kawhi versus KD. That was what was looming the whole time. I wrote this down actually. I was thinking about it as they were going head to head. They were guarding each other a couple times. This is like the best rivalry that never actually became a rivalry. Like, these guys came, I know KD came in 2007, but he came in a year out of college. Kawhi had been in college a couple of years. He comes in 2011. So they're around the same age range. And they had the San Antonio, Oklahoma City for the first couple of years of Kawhi's career. And KD was at a different level, right? In 2012, OKC beats them in 6, and Kawhi had 9 points total in the last 2 games. KD finished that series with 34, 14, and 5, right? So he's at a different level. By the time we get to 2014, Kawhi's becoming more like Kawhi. San Antonio beats OKC. He goes on, he wins Finals MVP. 2016, we get them head to head. Now they're pretty close. KD's still better, but Kawhi is like inching up there. OKC wins that one, and he had a better team. 2017, that was when Kawhi got hurt by Zaza in game 1. We never got to see it. That was when Kawhi was an MVP candidate. That was when it really should have happened. And then 2019, that was the finals when KD was hurt and he came back and he got hurt again, and we didn't see that either.
It's around
and now,
here.
4 years later, they're going at it again, but it's just like, man, this should have been awesome. I love watching them guard each other. I think Kawhi gives KD in a lot of ways the most problems of any forward of KD's career. And I was watching it today like, man, we should have gotten this 20 more times.
Yeah, you're right. How about that last possession where Westbrook ended up getting the free throws? I don't know why Booker had to defend him that way, but Durant face guarded Kawhi.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get him the ball. And I rewound that, just watching it all going like, this is exactly what you're talking about, going, these two dudes, because I wondered what the matchups, like this whole series is this matchup kind of fascination where I imagine it's going to look different at different times. I have to think Monty has 2 major adjustments to make in this one based on what we've already talked about. But Westbrook started on Durant, and I was like, man, I probably should have factored in Westbrook wanting to take his soul because the energy that Westbrook played with, I don't know that Durant was like totally ready for it. And then the funniest thing about this game is that it's basically no matter what you think about Westbrook, you're right after this. I don't know that I've ever seen a game of a player. It's like the most wide-ranging opinions are all right here. And he had 2 or 3 of the biggest plays.
Hold on a second on that, though. I didn't think he had this kind of game still in him at this point in his career. This incredibly impactful, aggro, kind of hustle play, deflection, offensive rebounds, steals from behind, huge offensive rebounds in traffic. He hasn't wanted to be this guy for a while. He's wanted to be the, I'm Gilbert Arenas in 2006 guy. So I was actually surprised by how impactful he was.
I'm not sure I've ever wondered like if his effort level was going to dip. I mean, the only time with him with the Lakers, which is always kind of weird how this consistently plays out, if the Lakers games weren't real, like it somehow was all the Lakers' fault. And you go, I don't know, like remember the ABC game where LeBron didn't get the foul call after he traveled, and they acted like it was the sequel to fucking Casablanca.
Mystic River.
It was unbelievable. Mystic River, great call. Like Westbrook in that game, once his confidence is gone, you're like, this is even worse. Like I used to not like you when you had too much confidence, and now you don't even want to do anything. Everybody's playing off you, and then like that's this game.
It was Superman 2 Westbrook when Clark Kent's just trying to be Clark Kent.
When he's at the diner.
It's Superman 2 diner Westbrook.
But in this game, I wasn't quite sure because they went on that run at the end of the third when they took him out, but that might not really be on Westbrook. So then I was wondering, like, what's Lou going to do with him again? When you looked at Westbrook with the Clippers, the fourth quarter closing minutes have all kind of been all over the place. And since the All-Star break for the Clippers, he's 6th in fourth quarter minutes post All-Star. So you're like, okay, because he, it depended on what he wanted to do. He's got the Powell decision. It was great to see Terrence Mann out there.
Not quite enough of Terrence Mann.
And I think Bones is still like you're scared to death of him, even if he's going to make some shots. But the rebound that led to the first Kawhi 3 that made it 106-101 was all him. Then the other offensive rebound, and then the tip ball, and then making the 2 free throws where even the announcer says it was happening. So, I mean, he was the difference at the end of the game. And that's what's so funny because he also had stretches where I was like, what is Lou going to do here?
Well, you knew he was going to take, I texted you this, that he was going to take either the biggest shot of the game or one of the biggest shots
you called
in the last minute.
A minute
and
before
he took a 3. They got the rebound. I thought of this during the game, and I wish I had thought of it before the series because I wasn't really counting. I figured like we'd get to the playoffs, they'd be like, man, we can't play this guy. He's an offensive liability. We got to patch it together with Terrence Mann on these dudes. There's 2 people in this series that he has history with that probably gives him confidence, right? KD he grew up with. And he was kind of that, as KD was better on that team, but Russ was kind of the alpha on that team in a lot of ways. So he's looking at KD. He's like, I've known that guy since I'm 19. I'm not afraid of him. And then Chris is somebody he really went toe to toe with and won a few of those. Like he beat him in 2014. And I always thought was somebody that gave Chris problems because of his athleticism. And he just never seemed afraid of Chris, and always was kind of overpowering him. It was like those UFC fights when the guy tries to move up in weight and the other guy's just too big. So I thought watching today, I was like, he seems really comfortable in this series, really comfortable going at KD, really comfortable going at Chris, and maybe he is going to be a bigger asset. Listen, I'm going to admit defeat on this. I thought he would have been waived by now. I really did. I thought this was going to be 3 weeks and out, like Iverson on Memphis that year. It was like, oh, here comes Iverson. He's going to help. And then he was like, you got to waive him. This is the opposite. They really needed his offensive rebounding in that game. Who else is offensive rebounding in that team?
Well, Zoo, but
that's it.
The thing with Zoo too is like Ayton is just not strong enough for him. I just wonder when Ayton, and I think it's his personality, so to pretending it's going to change is fucking stupid. But it's like, are you ever going to get mad that you're not better? Like you're so gifted, you're so strong, you're so athletic, and then when you watch certain rebounds or he's fighting with Zubac, not that Zubac is actually like easy to move around, but I'm left a little stunned by this one, just because Kawhi was brilliant.
We didn't talk about Kawhi enough because what did he go 40 plus
38.
And it was also interesting where you have a game where he thinks he's the best guy in the game. KD thinks he's the best guy in the game. I feel like Booker probably thinks he's the best guy in the game, and Westbrook always thinks he's the best guy in the game. So you had 4 guys in the game who are walking around with their chest out. Kawhi had he dusted off some classics, like some just classic. Oh my God. Oh, those little floaters in traffic, the little like hesitation before he jumps up. Just such a hard guy to guard. It was an absolute delight to watch that game. I really had a good time.